Now, the Public Accounts Committee of Parliament is recommending a special audit of the National Sports Authority following major infractions cited in the Auditor General's report. From missing vehicles to payment of money into wrong accounts, as well as writing of debt without authority, officials of the NSA had a tough time to explain some of the infractions as they faced grueling questions from the MPs. We will hear from Dr. James Kluche-Aveji, making that recommendation shortly. First, listen to him direct that the police arrested the Northern Regional Director of the NSA, as well as the accountant, for allegedly squandering more than 160,000 cedis belonging to the authority.
That office is rotten. I mean, the authority is rotten. Minister, we are directing that the regional director and the accountant at the region should be picked by the police.
Thank you so much.
They should be picked immediately by the police.
Okay. Chairman, thank you. We'll take action.
You are invited to appear before Parliament, a committee of Parliament. You refuse to attend, knowing very well that you have squandered over 160,000 Ghana cedis. And you think that will leave you scot-free? Minister, can you do that, and then let's get the feedback.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, action will be taken, and I'll communicate same to you.
Thank you very much.
Now, Vice Chair of the committee, Samuel Atamils, who was visibly furious about the situation, said there was so much rot at the NSA.
National Sports Authority, there's a lot of rot over there. Rot. Vodafone, Ghana, they owed you 18,900. And the CCMI, Pastor Aziz, they owed you 2,250. And you sat down for this regional head to write it off without permission. Did you get a copy of this audit report? Did you get a copy of this audit report?
Mr. Chairman, yes.
Did you read the report?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
And did you understand the recommendations that were supposed to be taken?
Mr. Chairman, at that point we requested them to reinstate.
That wasn't my question. Did you understand the recommendations?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
And what have you done about these recommendations?
Mr. Chairman, we asked the regional director to comply with the recommendation, that is reinstate the debt as they are and make efforts to recover the money. And this was done. Letters have been issued for the demand of the debts, Mr. Chairman.
And you think just by issuing a letter, they will pay?
Now, Chairman of the committee, Dr. James Kluche-Aveji, says on the back of all this, there must be a special audit into the affairs of the NSA.
In our reports. But I think you should communicate this to the Auditor General himself immediately. There's a need for a special audit of National Sports Authority.
Well noted, Chairman.
I want to make a recommendation, and which we put in the reports, that the Auditor General go and do a special audit of the Ghana National Sports Authority. It's a recommendation. You can decide to do it. No, but listening to what is happening here, I think the place is in a mess.
Well, Ningo Pram MP and a member of the committee who had been doing a major part of the questioning, Sam George, says the development is welcome, citing a number of situations he describes as bizarre occurring at the National Sports Authority under the leadership of Professor Yao Chumesi as Director General.
The funny things going on, the revenues that came, did not go into the NSA's regular accounts. They are being, I mean, I have documents that show that the money went to Kumasi and then they inflated the cost of a pump and bought the pump with invoices that are questionable. It's just absurd. But clearly, people are creating, looting, and sharing at the NSA. And I support the recommendation of the committee chair that the Auditor General must conduct a special forensic audit of the NSA, because it's just unthinkable. The NSA has, and you know, there's this issue of the vehicle, the NSA vehicle that's outstanding. I mean, just listen to the chronology of events and make your own conclusion. The NSA always parks its vehicles in Kumasi at the Sports Hotel, which is part of the Kumasi Sports Stadium, very close to it. The new Director General comes in, a brand new pickup is bought. He gets to Kumasi with his driver and says, I don't want you to park at the Sports Hotel. Go and park at a new hotel, a different hotel. The vehicle is parked at that hotel. That very night, there's a robbery at the hotel, and the only thing that's stolen is the pickup. The police are informed, and when the police go to the hotel, that very night, again, was the only night that the hotel turned off its CCTV. Until today, the Director General had taken money to do comprehensive insurance. So from the NSA. So then they say, okay, then go to the insurer to replace the vehicle. He cannot produce the insurance documents. So, and it's been 3 years, a brand new pickup. I mean, this is the same man who came to this committee and assured me when I asked the public interest question that they had pitch covers. Today now he's telling you about 4 days. Why? Doesn't he know that musical concerts are not set up in 3 hours? And when I asked him about it, he said he had pitch covers. So you are seeing theft, you are seeing blatant lie, you are seeing misappropriation of state funds. I mean, how do we continue like this? And the clear disrespect and undermining of a sector minister is mind-boggling. I mean, except somebody sitting somewhere and maybe the Jubilee House is backing what the Sports Authority DG is doing, you can't see how this will happen in any institution.
There were other happenings at the Public Accounts Committee, including government's indebtedness to several community water schemes following the free water program rolled out in 2020.
After more than a month on break, Parliament is set to resume, and Public Accounts Committee has already been sitting for a week now. And today, a number of really key issues came up. You will recall that in the lead up to the 2020 election, you enjoyed some free water. It appears government has not finished fully paying the community water schemes and the Ghana Water Company Limited. And today there's been a directive for government to immediately clear off that debt.
I want to beg you and beg your people to help us to solve a small problem we are encountering at OEB area water.
What is that problem?
We're one of the schemes that were asked to give free water during COVID.
Okay.
And 3 billion plus.
That's 300,000 plus.
300 plus, as I speak, has not been paid. And we are struggling, so we need our money. We are struggling, so we need our money. Sorry, please.
You need your money?
Yes, please.
Honorable Minister,
Together.
I'm sure OEB area water is not the only water that is suffering. It came up in last year's report. And I'm sure this year too, the same thing will happen. And your former boss was here to respond that you have written to the Minister of Finance for release of fund. Has the Minister of Finance released the fund now to be paid to these area water boards, the community water schemes?
Perhaps one big theme today at the Public Accounts Committee has been the issue of unearned salaries.
So the unearned salary infractions this year is simply nauseating. Because they colluded. Last week we found evidence of collusion. They collude, they validate, they take the money, they pass back, they go and collect and share. So somebody should be held accountable.
So far, it's this unearned salary is becoming a lot. I think that there must be a grand scheme that is going on in the public service. So the head of civil service must be made to get get known of this issue, and then we'll find a way to curb it. Well, you have to continue to pursue the money from you don't have there is not a guarantor here. The families too are not cooperating. Once you report the issue to the IOCO, let's see what IOCO will do.
The Public Accounts Committee is not happy with recurring infractions in the Auditor General's report on earned salaries, minor procurement breaches. These are things that the Public Accounts Committee have been at pains to stress must end, and are expecting that in the coming days, when more MDAs appear before the committee to actually review their conduct, as have been reported in the Auditor General's report, these issues will be a thing of the past. Reporting for JoyNews, Kweku Asante, Parliament House, Accra.
Well, the Civil and Local Government Staff Association, Ghana, CLOCSAG, and Organized Labour today rolled out the first stage of series of action to put pressure on government to withdraw 15% VAT on residential consumers above the lifeline threshold. We'll hear from members of the Finance Committee, John Jinapo, shortly, but Organized Labour is insisting they will not back down on their demand for the 15% VAT on electricity consumption to be scrapped unless government formally writes to them that it has rescinded its decision. The groups confirmed they have officially written to the police on their upcoming demonstration against the 15% VAT on electricity. The groups say they will embark on a nationwide strike if government refuses to scrap the 15% VAT on electricity consumption or formally write to them about their intention to do so. My colleague Kenneth Jesse's report.
Organized Labour and CLOCSAG have refused to back down on their demands for government to scrap the 15% VAT on electricity consumption. They have hoisted red flags all over their offices, saying that their demonstration slated for the 13th of February still holds if government does not engage them and tell them categorically that they are withdrawing the 15% VAT, which, according to rumors, was agreed by Cabinet to be scrapped pending an IMF approval. Now, Organized Labour and CLOCSAG are defiant, maintaining their stance that their demand for the scrapping still holds, that they will only back down if they are engaged by the appropriate authorities and giving assurances that the 15% VAT on electricity consumption will be scrapped. Reporting from the national headquarters of CLOCSAG in Accra, Kenneth Jesse for JoyNews.
Well, Deputy General Secretary of Trades Union Congress, Joshua Ansa, will be joining us shortly on this. I think we already have him here. I'm grateful to you, sir, for joining us. You still haven't been officially informed by the government of the withdrawal of the 15% VAT on electricity. Hello, Mr. Ansa. I want to find out from you whether it is true or still the case that you have not been informed by the government of its decision to withdraw the 15% VAT on electricity.
You are saying is true. We have not received any official communication from the government yet.
Any reason you think that's the case?
I don't know. It's only government who can talk for itself. But for us, we don't use social media and the speculation to deal with our meetings. We are waiting for an official communication from the government. Then you can use that as an official document to reconvene the meeting, to think about the next line of action.
Now, you engaged with the police this afternoon. Share details with us.
We did not engage the police. We rather sent a letter to the police. Yes, as directed by the Public Order Act.
Okay. So it means that it was to inform them of what exactly?
Yes, we informed the police of our action, intended action.
Okay. Which I guess is the demonstration on 13th?
On 13th, yes.
Okay. All right then. Grateful to you, sir. Thanks for joining us. Now, my colleague Isaac Kofi Ajay, who is a lead data analyst here at JoyNews, joins me in studio with details of what you are expected to pay if the 15% VAT on electricity consumption is implemented. Now, Kofi, tell me, what are we likely to pay if these taxes, are implemented?
Well, Kojo, the reason why this has become important is because it's an IMF conditionality. It's part of the things we told the IMF that we were going to do when we get the access to implement the program. And so on your screens right now is a 15% VAT on non-lifeline consumption. We are talking about residential consumers. So it means that what's the lifeline? The lifeline is simply those who consume 0 to 30 kilowatt hour per month. That means that if your light bill is more than 20 cedis every month, expect to pay the VAT. And
that's 20 cedis a month.
20 cedis a month. If your bill is above that, then be ready to be part of this bracket that we're actually talking about. And so when you look at the lifeline, for instance, it's been changing right from 1982 to 2022. You see the lifeline, having that sort of irregular movement. In terms of 1992, we're talking about 0 to 50. Then it moved to the lifeline. Then they had a consideration in 1992. Then they said let's bring it between 0 to 100. Then we've seen this being cut to 0 to 30. After COVID, and government spent more than 1 billion Ghana cedis to provide, free electricity, and then also give those who were above the lifeline 50%, subsidy in terms of their bill. Now we want to look at how much you will be paying if this VAT is actually applied. Let's look at that one on the screens. Yeah. So we use 4 different, bills. So assuming that currently you pay 50 cedis, power
in a month.
Let's just say you buy prepaid 50 cedis.
Okay.
If the VAT 15% is applied, the VAT does not come alone. It comes with 3 cousins, and these are the 3 cousins. You end up paying Get Fund 2.5%. You pay COVID-19 1%. And then you also pay the NHIL, which we call the, NHIL, which is also 2.5%. So if you do the computation, the taxable amount becomes the power that you already pay for plus these 3 taxes, then the VAT applies. So if you pay 50 cedis and this is applied, be ready to pay some 60 cedis, 95%. If you buy
around 11 cedis.
11 cedis. If you pay 100 cedis, or if you buy prepaid with 100 cedis, be ready to pay some 121 cedis, 90%. 200 cedis, we are talking about close to 244 cedis. And if you are those in the upper class, let's say 500 cedis, you'll be paying 609 cedis. Those who are paying 1,000 cedis should be ready to pay some 1,239 or so.
Wow.
That is the computation that we actually have for you on the screen. So remember, 2020, government spent 1 billion to provide free water. 2021, it introduced COVID-19 recovery levy, which per our checks, government has been able to rake in more than 4 billion Ghana cedis from that levy. Then in 2022, government decides that, let me do the quarterly, adjustment of, tariffs. In 2023, they are hoping to impose 15% on power. So indeed, there's no free lunch, Kojo.
So what is at stake if that 15% VAT is put on hold?
So we decided to study the IMF program proper, and we realized that there was a tax diagnostic team that came to Ghana to look at our fiscal expenditure and then our revenue as well. And they realized that if you look at VAT exemptions alone, it costs us about 2% of our GDP.
Okay.
When we computed, we are looking at close to $1.7 billion. That's close to 17 billion Ghana cedis that we are talking about. That includes the exemption that we have, VAT exemption we have on electricity. It means that if we are able to really deal with these VAT exemptions on some products and consumables like electricity, then we should be saving the economy some 1.7 billion. And it's the reason why government of Ghana cannot take that unilateral decision to say that I am letting go of this 15% VAT. They have to consult the IMF. And when you consult the IMF, you need to provide an alternative.
Wow. So it's the alternative we're looking for.
Absolutely.
All right, let's see how that goes. Meanwhile, here is a report capturing the raft of taxes introduced by the Akufo-Addo administration since it was voted into power.
MPP will shift the focus of economic policy away from taxation to production.
In 2016, then NPP candidate Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo and his vice president Mahamudu Bawumia pledged a reduction in the tax burden on Ghanaians, a commitment that resonated with many, particularly businesses and investors impacted by the preceding Mahama administration's high tax regime. Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia emphasized the party's vision to shift the economic focus from taxation to production.
They are hurting the economy. These taxes are hurting, and therefore you are not going to get the growth. And when you don't get the growth, you will not get the revenue. And when you don't get the revenue, you go back to increasing taxes to get the revenue. And then you are in a cyclical downward spiral. And so they have it wrong. And we changed that particular policy.
Following a triumphant victory, expectations soared for the new administration to fulfill its promise of slashing what were considered nuisance taxes. In the early days, Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta, during the 2017 budget reading, indeed announced the removal of certain taxes.
Abolished the 1% special import levy. Abolished the 17.5% VAT on financial sector. Abolished the 17.5% VAT on selected imported medicines that are not produced. Abolished the 17.5% on domestic airline tickets. We will abolish the 5% VAT on real estate sales. We will abolish excise duty. We will reduce the special petroleum tax rate from 17.5% to 15%.
However, sometime into the second tenure of the Akufo-Addo administration, fresh taxes were introduced and some increased. Further complexities arose with the imposition of 3 new taxes on petroleum products. Despite these additions, numerous existing taxes witnessed increments such as 30% hike in energy sector levies (ESLA), extending its original 5-year duration to an extended 15-year term. Additionally, the special petroleum tax saw an 11% increase, rising from 41 pesos to 46 pesos per litre of diesel and petrol. A striking 200% increase in the bust margin from 3% to 9% were among the notable changes outlined. To some, the evolving tax landscape under the NPP government prompts a critical reflection on its fiscal policies and the broader economic implications for Ghanaians.
Away from that, schools and businesses in Kwahu Bepong in the eastern region remain shut 24 hours after clashes between the residents and the police on Sunday. The youth ransacked the chief's palace yesterday, demanding an immediate release of a young man accused of the murder of 2 persons in Kwahu at Dehoma. The irate youth vandalized the chief's palace to register their displeasure over his refusal to release the suspect to them for a mob justice. The situation has led to a clash between the police and the youth, resulting in the reported death of 2 persons and the closure of schools. Now, let me share with you the statement. The police in the last few hours have released a statement on the arrest made so far. The police say the service this morning arrested 46 more people in connection with the attacks on the Bepong Chief's Palace and some police officers at Kwahu Bepong in the eastern region, bringing the total number of suspects so far arrested to 71. It says the suspects, together with others currently on the run, attacked the Bepong Chief's Palace on 4th February 2024 and injured 7 people, including 5 police officers. They also vandalized 1 police vehicle and 6 police motorbikes, as well as 3 private vehicles. The suspects also caused damage to sections of the palace and an adjoining building. Now, the police officers came under attack at the palace when they were called on 4th February 2024 to take over a murder suspect, one Kwesi Nyako, who had been arrested by some community members and sent to the Bepong Chief's Palace, awaiting the arrival of the police. Security, law and order have since been restored in the Bepong Township. All the suspects will be put before the court to face justice. Now, that's the statement from the police. The Eastern Regional Minister, Seth Kwame Achampong, told JoyNews that schools have been closed until calm is restored to the area. Thankfully, the Eastern Regional Minister, Seth Kwame Achampong, has joined us on the phone line for more on the situation. Grateful to you, sir. Now, what's the security situation in Kwahu Bepong now as we speak?
Very, very calm.
very, very calm. As we speak, the community is calm. We have no disturbances, and members are going about their business as usual. However, the presence of the deployment of law enforcement agents in the system is also a new thing to them. Certainly, we should be, all be appreciative that it's not normal for them. However, the agency demands that it happens this way.
But what's your official briefing on what caused the incident we saw yesterday?
I think it is not too different from the narrative the police gave that you just read out to us. It's as a result of an alleged murderer who had some price placed on him or who helped to redeem him for the ransom reward. And apparently some costed a fellow and sent the person to the chief's palace like you discussed. And then thereafter, there was this misunderstanding. The unfortunate matter is the person who was alleged to have murdered other citizens of this country should have first and foremost been subjected to a police inquiry so that the police will take the matter up, because they are the ones who are mandated by law. As a country, we employ rule of law. The police must be the first port of call for such crimes to be reported to. So they take the matter up, investigate, and return to us. So these are the concerns that the police have briefed me on. But so far, I am very impressed with the output of the police. Even though there have been some casualties, they've been very professional and very responsive to this very matter.
Okay. Now, we also understand that some health facilities have been affected. Can you confirm this for us?
Oh, yes. According to reports that I have received, because of the nature of the disturbance, some community members, out of fear, panicked and left the town. But we are still observing the situation. We are however, very hopeful that we are not going to go back again. We are going to move forward, and the peace and the seeming stability that we are experiencing now will be deepened so that we don't have any further disturbances. As a result of that, we're going to restore confidence to the community and get community members back, and then they return to their various assignments. That is where we are pushing.
Okay. We know schools have all been affected. Do we know exactly when from today that schools will likely be opened?
From our discussion, we are hoping and very hoping to get the school children back into school on Wednesday.
Wednesday. All right. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us here.
My pleasure, my brother.
Welcome back from the break. Now, brace yourself for the worst. That's the warning from researchers who say the worst of this year's Harmattan season, characterized by fine particles and suspended dust in the atmosphere, is yet to come. Data from air quality sensors show Accra's air is hazardous for all groups of people claiming the unenviable title of having the world's worst air quality. IQ Air, an air quality monitoring center with more than a dozen sensors around the country, has ranked the air quality in Accra as the worst, ahead of Mumbai in India and Wuhan in China. Researchers believe the Harmattan will become more intense in the coming days. Analyst with Clean Air Fund, Victoria Usuteria, says the dust season is expected to peak in the coming days.
Okay, so for last year, based on meteorology, we normally get the dust coming in during the Harmattan season from the Sahara Desert, the northeast trade winds blowing in the dust into the country. Now, in February, when we had that spike, there was a dust storm raised over the Sahara that brought in higher concentrations of dust into the country and then hitting Accra. And Accra, from evidence or from research, there's been anthropogenic or man-made pollution sources as well. And so coupling that with the dust emanating from the Sahara caused that spikes in terms of pollution levels during February or during the Harmattan last year. Now, from research too, we found that during February we have or reached the peaks and the peak of the Harmattan. So mostly the dust levels, concentration levels are quite high in February. And then along the way, getting to the latter parts of February, it reduces. We get a mixture of dry and wet conditions, getting some few rains here and there, and so improving the quality of setting in the rainy season or the wet season.
Okay, so we are getting into February then.
Yeah.
Should we be expecting a similar spike, or we should be peaking at say our Harmattan period?
Yeah, so not a similar spike, I would say, but then during February we will still be experiencing the hazy conditions we are experiencing now, which might of course increase, but not to that level that we experienced last year. From the first weeks of February to the middle part of the month. But however, like I said, getting to the latter parts of the month, we expect that conditions will improve, thereby improving the quality of air over Accra.
Now, the Ghana Meteorological Agency says although the intensity of the Harmattan season in previous years was more intense, this year's Harmattan has lasted longer than previous years. Joshua Asamoah is a senior meteorologist with the Ghana Meteorological Agency.
No, every season actually comes with its own intensity. You would never have two seasons being the same across the globe. That's how it has been. Even for rainfall, you have seasons coming with their own variabilities. So the intensity has not been the same, but we can say that in the past few years, we get very intense Harmattan in the south for a short period of time, and then generally we'll be getting occasional rainfall in between. But for the northern portions, you can see that the intensity will come and last for some time before it relaxes and all of that. Yeah.
Okay, so the month of February, I'm told, is the last stretch of it. Over the years, what was the trend? So is truly February the peak of it and the highest intense more of the Harmattan season?
The peak actually varies. Okay. So sometimes you can have the peak in January. There are times that you could even get it in December. But when we compare this year to that of last year, we can say we are getting the peak somewhere around late January into February. But in the northern portions, the peak was somewhere in December, and it was quite intense, very dry conditions. And even the cessation, when the Harmattan actually ends, it ends earlier in southern Ghana than the northern portions. So we'll be seeing the Harmattan coming to an end somewhere in February. And then late February into March, we'll start seeing some rains, bringing the onset of the rainfall season in the southern portions. But northern Ghana will still be in the Harmattan around that time.
Thankfully, Joshua Asamoah joins us via phone with more detail. Joshua, grateful for joining us. Now, over the weekend, the atmosphere was very hazy. What does that tell us about the Harmattan this year compared to that of previous years?
Well, thanks for having me. So we saw an intensification of the dusty conditions from the Sahel areas, and they were transported by low-level winds into our country. That's why we saw the dry, dusty conditions intensifying over the weekend. But when we compare this with the past years, we can say that this is not the highest we've seen. It's a very significant concentration of dust within the country around this time, but this is not the highest we've seen in recent years. I remember very well in 2016, we had very intense Harmattan that caused flights to be cancelled at the Kotoka International Airport. And for international flights to be cancelled, it means that the dust concentration was very high, because these flights have landing aids that help them even when visibility is poor. And so for them to get cancelled within that period, that tells of the intensity of the dust around that time. In 2020 as well, we had a very significant increase in the Harmattan, and that led to cancellation of local flights. In that instance, international flights were able to still go. So it wasn't as deteriorating as the one that we saw in 2016. So even last year, even though the duration for the Harmattan for Accra, for instance, was a bit shorter, but the intensity during that short period was quite high. So we will not say that this is the highest we've seen or the greatest intensity that we've seen in recent years. We've had the worst case.
But at least it's a little prolonged than some years. So we want to find out, what's the cause for the prolonged Harmattan this year?
Well, it's not really, it's not also the longest duration we've seen, but compared to just last year, we can see that this one has been a bit longer than the duration for last year. But most of the time, these duration and intensity are actually determined by the source region. The Harmattan actually does not start from Ghana. It's a weather phenomenon that is happening in the Sahel areas. And so that area is a desert. The dust is already there. What it needs is for the winds and the atmospheric pressure to be favorable enough to raise them. Once it is raised in the Sahel areas, they are transported by the low-level winds that come from Northern Africa towards the Atlantic Ocean. When they are coming from these areas, the winds carry the characteristics of the land that they track over. Sudan, Chad, Northern Nigeria, Niger areas, these are all dry areas. So as the winds are tracking over them, they carry the dry, dusty conditions that are in these countries along with them. And so they deposit them into their country during December, January, February, and that brings our Harmattan. And so when the intensity or the strength of the winds that are bringing these dry, dusty conditions are less, then Harmattan will also be less intense in the country. But when you get very strong winds there, then they pick a lot of these dusty and dry conditions along with them. And so you get very intense Harmattan also happening. So those are the dynamics that we see every year, which brings the differences in intensity of Harmattan within the country.
So we can't say climate change has a role to play here.
Climate change may have a role, but I will not say that it is entirely because of climate change. Climate change in itself will probably affect the quality of the air that we are seeing, because outside the concentration of the dust, which will help in the destroying the air's quality, there's also the fumes from cars, emissions from industry that are also polluting the atmosphere. These things are more of human-induced activities that are enhancing these pollutants. And so climate change is just about greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. And so what we are doing as individuals, contributing to greenhouse gases, could be as a result of climate change enhancement. But for the dust itself, I would not really say that there's climate change. That is
okay. Yeah. All right. Grateful to you for joining us here. Now, this story was a collaboration with New Narratives. Funding was provided by the Clean Air Fund, and the funder had no say in the content of the story. This is still JoyNews Prime. We'll take a quick break. We'll be back with Showbiz, and we'll have a surprise for you. Do stay.
Okay. Honestly, I don't read comments. To be frank, I never read comments because at the end of the day, am I gonna see? The thing is that, you know, when my father told me one thing, and it's called opinion, and everyone has the opinion of things.
That's right.
So if I'm going to be hurt by every single person's opinion, I'm human and I have feelings. But the thing is that when you have done something for so long and you understand the dynamics of it, you cannot be bothered so much because you understand that these are people out there who just want attention.
Exactly.
And listen, still they'll say, nah, you understand, we still need to write something. So at the end of the day, see, I've matured and I've